From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Montana lawmakers considering a bill that would require courts to consider religious impacts when taking up cases. Coming up here, why some say it's definitely needed, while others say it will encourage discrimination.
Bozeman City Commissioners say the Montana legislature could be tying their hands if they take away one of their affordable housing tools. I'm Gabby Crevitt, and I'll have more on what that means coming up.
Well, good morning. It is 6:30 a.m. for you. You are watching Montana This Morning. Holly Brantley, Chet Lehman, Matt Elwell here. And it is, we had a little more snow yesterday, but we're still watching some light flurries fall this morning. Matt, what are we looking at outside?
We're still dealing with some slick roads. We haven't gotten rid of all the snow on those side roads, and now we're adding to it. I think today's snow is going to be light overall. We're probably talking about an inch for Gallatin, Madison County, out toward Broadwater County. In fact, we do have a winter weather advisory out, but the snow coverage is not particularly impressive. We're not looking at anything overly significant, but it is going to slow things down. You can see crews are out there this morning taking care of some of that snow. Temperatures are into the 20s for the afternoon. Our temperatures may be up and down depending on snowfall at the time, but it is going to be pleasant for temperatures, just a little less pleasant with a few of those snow showers. We'll talk more about impacts it may have on your day in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Now to news. A skier is dead after a mishap at Bridger Bowl.
Yeah, the 21-year-old was reported missing yesterday afternoon. Ski patrol started up a search, found the skier in a tree well. The skier was found unresponsive, but the team attempted life-saving efforts. Now, a tree well is a space around the base of a tree that can be deceiving, and if you fall into it, it can be head first, or it can be too deep for you to get back out of. The space can be very deep, and loose snow can collapse in the open area. The skier was within the ski area boundary.
Meantime, Montana lawmakers are hearing testimony on a bill that supporters say would ensure the right of religious freedom, but opponents say it could open the door to discrimination. MTN's Jonathan Amberian explains the debate.
The Senate Judiciary Committee held a lengthy hearing Tuesday on Senate Bill 215, sponsored by Republican Senator Carl Glimm of Kyla. The bill is titled as a Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and supporters say a number of states have adopted their own versions in recent years. SB 215 would say state and local governments can only put a burden on a person or organization's right to free exercise of religion if their action is essential to further a compelling governmental interest and the least restrictive means of achieving that. Supporters say they want to ensure potential impacts on someone's religion are considered with the highest scrutiny in courts. But opponents say the language is broader than other similar laws, and it would encourage challenges to existing laws, particularly local non-discrimination ordinances. During the hearing, Senator Bryce Bennett, a Democrat from Missoula and member of the LGBT community, asked Glimm to justify the potential impacts of the bill.
This bill is very personal to me, and the testimony that we heard today was personal to me as well, because I have lived those experiences. This bill would allow people like me to be denied housing, to be kicked out of restaurants, to be denied health care, to be fired from my job, not because of something that I did, but simply because of who I am.
This bill is not a blanket license to discriminate. All this bill does is gives an ability to use religion in the court of law, and those arguments that you are referring to would have to then be worked out in the court. But all the examples that you gave, I don't think a single one of them would qualify under this bill.
Similar bills have been introduced in previous legislatures, including in 2015, when the bill failed on a tied vote in the House. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
The committee did not take immediate action on the bill.
In other headlines this morning, a bill to make Montana a right-to-work state drew a crowd yesterday morning at its first hearing in the Capitol, and most of those who testified before the House Business and Labor Committee on House Bill 251 opposed it. The bill would prohibit requiring anyone to join a labor union as a condition of employment. It also would ban private sector unions from collecting fees from any workers who don't want to join, even if those workers benefit from a bargain contract. Bill sponsor, Republican State Representative Caleb Hinkle of Belgrade, said workers should not be forced to join or support a union and that right-to-work states have higher wages and faster-growing economies. The head of the National Right-to-Work Committee said Montana law essentially allows unions to extort fees from workers who don't want their services. But scores of Montana union members testified against HB 251, saying strong unions lead to good wages and that many studies have shown right-to-work states have lower wages. And at least two major employers of union workers in Montana, the utility Northwestern Energy and the Stillwater Mine, also came out against the bill, saying it's not needed.
Our workers strive to keep your lights on and the gas flowing safely and reliably. I can't think of one example where right to work would improve our workforce. As a matter of fact, I think it would create division and resentment within it.
Under current law in Montana, employees who never requested union representation can be forced to accept a labor union as their exclusive monopoly bargaining agent. Then, rubbing salt in the wound, they can be forced to pay for representation they never requested, do not want, and indeed which may be working against their interests.
Now, the committee took no immediate action on this bill yesterday as well.
Well, on Monday, Montana House legislators voted in support of a bill that would stop local governments from requiring the development of affordable housing in a community.
MTN's Gabby Crevitt tells us Bozeman City Commissioners not pleased with the legislation.
If a developer is building 10 or more units in a subdivision, 10% are required to be affordable. Or developers can pay cash in lieu, which goes directly back into the city's affordable housing programs. But this practice could be blocked by Montana legislators, which has the Bozeman City Commission pretty upset.
That bill passing out of the House was infuriating, frankly.
On Monday, Republican Representative Sue Vinton of Billings introduced House Bill 259, which could block local governments from establishing zoning rules that would require builders to pay a fee or set aside property for affordable housing units in a new development.
This practice, often referred to as inclusionary zoning, is taking place in some of our communities despite the negative impact such an intrusive mandate has on the market, as well as cost shifting to other properties.
Bozeman City Commissioners disagree and say it's been a tool to help create more affordable housing in a community where there's an affordable housing crisis.
There are 17 homes that are now lived in by people who are making affordable housing wages. We just the other night approved a site plan that calls for 14 more, and we're seeing more and more plans being developed as land is being annexed, and we think that it really is just starting to get going now.
Bozeman developer Greg Stratton has developed affordable housing units because of the city's inclusionary zoning policy and says they've had no problem supporting it.
We've always complied with it, so it's really not been a problem for us. I know a lot of the other developers were negative towards it.
Stratton says the bill in the legislature could be a setback, but also an opportunity for the city to get more creative when it comes to addressing the affordable housing crisis.
When I look at the results of the inclusionary zoning versus the results of using other avenues to promote affordable housing, inclusionary zoning has not been the most productive method of doing it.
But commissioners say if the bill becomes law, it would tie their hands even more.
This bill does not solve a problem. It creates a bigger problem in that it takes away one of our tools that helps us to create affordable housing.
Reporting in Bozeman, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
Well, the Montana House has endorsed a bill meant to let the state resume executions. Yesterday, representatives voted 56-44 in favor of House Bill 244, which would give the state more options for drug use in executions. In 2015, a judge ruled the current death penalty procedures did not comply with the state law requiring a drug that works, quote, ultra fast. The drugs that met the requirements are no longer made available for executions, which means the state is essentially unable to carry out the death penalty without changing the law. Montana currently has 2 prisoners sentenced to death. The bill has to pass a final vote in the House before moving on to the Senate.
In other headlines, a heavy construction class at Montana Tech recently did very well at a national competition. Associated General Contractors of America Club at the Butte University finished 2nd place in the heavy civil category during a national competition that involved schools from around the nation. Competition held earlier in the month was done remotely due to the pandemic. The team proud of its success.
The heavy civil team killed it, and they're really good at what they do. They've got some really good students on there. They know what they're doing. The project management team, this was our first year in this particular category. It was a little tough. We were shorthanded 2 people, but we gave it our best.
Well, and well done. Club members say they're eager to compete in next year's competition.
Congrats to them.
I think that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Did it shorthanded. Let's see what happens next year.
Absolutely. I
Shoot
love
for the
that.
top.
Well, coming up here on Montana This Morning, the most active volcano in Europe is back to its pyrotechnic ways. I'll look at Mount Etna's latest eruption. That is coming up.
But first, let's check in with Anthony Mason to see what's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, millions are still without power in the South. We'll have the latest as the deadly winter storm does not let up. Also, COVID cases are dropping, but variants are increasing. We'll talk to Dr. Anthony Fauci about those dangers and what they mean for vaccination efforts. Plus, what we can learn from a vaccine study in England on children. And in our new Unifying America series, some of the country music's biggest stars speak out about the push for change in their industry. We'll hear new music from Vince Gill about the fight against racism in America. He'll play a new song for us. All that come up when we see you at 7.